This one was 1978.
First thing out of his mouth is, you gotta watch
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Yes, there it is. The Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Now, this was a cartoon.
Across this great nation, almost
Oh, really? I guess I didn't do enough research to learn about. I didn't know that there was a return of the Killer Tomatoes.
Sure.
So that might
Okay,
be.
let's listen up a little bit.
You think he's dead? Will you miss him? Will you marry again? What if he's laying in a ditch somewhere, like with both his legs broken, calling your name?
What is this? What's going on? Okay.
So this was right near the end, actually. This woman had just gotten her home and her husband taken away from her via the Killer Tomatoes.
Okay, hoping it was an advertisement. It is. Okay.
Chicken.
Lives are shattered. The nation is in chaos. Death and destruction sweeps the country. Foursquare Productions presents perhaps the funniest film ever made.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. You've never seen a film like it. This is the incredible story of the world's ultimate disaster. Vicious man-eating tomatoes grow to monstrous proportions. Faced with this unprecedented menace, the president calls upon Mason Dixon.
All right. Okay. So we kind of get the synopsis. I don't want to get copyright strike. But okay, so
Mason Dixon is our main character
the
here.
Mason Dixon line? Okay.
Well, his name is Mason Dixon.
Okay.
Obviously, that was the joke.
Explain it.
So he has a nice little ragtag group. You can see the person behind him is carrying a little parachute, and another person in the group had actually like the little floppers, like the little snow or the swimming floppers, and like went
Flippers.
Yes, that's the one. And
We call them floppers.
and but then this guy shows up later and has the parachute the entire movie. He's always in that parachute gear, which
So
is
there he is running in the parachute.
Yep, no qualms about him.
Okay.
He's showering and he's got it, and so it's just
Oh,
part of
really?
his deal is this. So that was one of the things that I really loved about this film is it never ever took itself too seriously. The second things would get a little bit serious, they would like take the characters and put them in a cramped room so people would have to climb over each other.
Yeah.
So it was very fast paced. Basically, this follows the group of men trying to figure out how to stop the killer tomato invasion. There's the man he's a specialist in undercover. So he goes undercover to infiltrate the killer tomato lair.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So the other like main character in this is the press secretary who's trying to like squash and keep everything quiet when it comes to the fact that there's this killer tomato invasion.
What is this guy doing popping people walking around?
Well, and that's the other like mystery throughout the film is that somebody's after Mason Dixon.
Oh.
Somebody's
good
trying
shot.
to kill Mason Dixon.
That'd be funny to have the actors like they're all walking along the boardwalk. Okay, you fall. Now you fall. Okay, fall.
There was
That's great. These are great pratfalls. Look at their arms fly up in the air every time. Do you see that?
This movie was
that.
a type of movie where you had to have really enjoyed making it because near the end, there's a lot of really great shots where it was obvious they had like a large group of people participating in this activity, and it just seemed like a really fun set
I
day.
think their arms flying up. Like
so-
watch when they.
What I loved about the film, I will get to in a second.
Okay.
But
All right.
what I did not like about the film was the fact that it had a couple of like sexist scenes in it that I'm sure in 1978 was tongue-in-cheek and very edgy and kind of funny, but in today's generation just kind of fell a little bit flat. At one point,
What kind of sexist jokes?
well, the female reporter goes into her boss's office, and her boss is saying, "I've been watching you. You've been doing a great job of working hard, and you've got great stamina and great work ethic and a great ass." And another scene, yeah,
Can't do that nowadays. Okay.
and then in another scene, she was like calling her boss, and she's like, "I don't know what to do. I'm trying to get the scoop, and I can't get it." And he's like, "I think you know what to do. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I think you know what to do. You're a woman." And
Same lady?
Same lady.
Sounds like they're doing the same joke over.
So they were trying to do this joke, and it just didn't work for me in today's generation. But in 1978, it was probably like kind of cheeky and funny. So, what I enjoyed about this film, though, is, like I said, it never took itself too seriously. This is actually marketed as a comedy musical. So, yes,
they sing?
There are musical numbers in this. There's really only 2 musical numbers, and then the last one is kind of like a joke throw-in. But the 2 musical numbers are genuinely funny and kind of a delightful surprise, in my opinion.
Okay.
Other than that,
did they do it in the stadium here?
Yes,
A lot of people running in the
this
stadium.
yes, this is the final scene. So, spoiler alert if you don't want to know the ending.
Okay. All right. Fast forward. Give them 2 minutes.
So yeah, something like that. 2 minutes, sure. And so basically, what happens is the person that was trying to kill Mason Dixon was, spoiler alert, the press secretary, actually, because he had an understanding with his tomatoes, and so he could get along with them. And so he was trying to kill Mason Dixon because Mason Dixon was trying to prevent the tomato invasion. So they killed the press secretary, and then that was right before he figured out, like, why is it that the tomato, like, how did you get along with the tomatoes? And the press secretary was about ready to explain it when he was killed. But then Mason Dixon pulls out this musical number that he realized was playing in the background a different scene, and it's called Puberty Love. And the musical number Puberty Love shrunk the tomatoes and allowed them to defeat the tomatoes because something about this particular musical number.
Are they trying to say something else going on there? Is there a message?
Just
Puberty Love.
That is the musical number that they went with.
Okay.
That was the one that shrunk all the tomatoes, and then in the final, like, again, another final scene, like a giant tomato has earmuffs on, and so he's not listening to the song.
Okay.
And so Mason Dixon pulls out the sheet of music and goes like this, and kind of puts it in the tomato's face, and the tomato shrinks, and then they're able to stomp on it. And so that's the ending, is everybody stomping on all the tomatoes, which was probably a great scene to film.
Everyone stomping on the tomatoes.
Yes.
It's what is it? 19? What year did you say it was? 1974.
78. This was a 78 film. So
78. All right, 1978 Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, recommended to you, and we're to that point, Kendra. It's time to give the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes your Starship Trooper rating. Okay, so explain this rating real quick.
So it's 1 out of 5 Starship Troopers. 5 Starship Troopers is the best. And the reason I chose Starship Troopers is because if I chose Starship Troopers, you would know what this segment was getting at. So
maybe. Okay. Kendra, do we have 1 Starship Trooper?
We have at least 1 Starship Trooper.
Okay, cool. There he is. Oh, no, glory. 2 Starship Troopers. Kendra, do we have 2 Attack of the Killer Tomatoes?
I think 2 is a good start for Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Very nice. Okay. 1978 Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Do we have 3 stars?
Stars?
Starship Troopers.
Yes, we have 3 Starship Troopers.
Good. You got me. Okay. Okay. So this is as far. Kendra, do we have Attack of the Killer Tomatoes? 1978 was it good enough to receive a 4 Starship Trooper rating?
Yes, it was good enough to get a 4 Starship Trooper rating.
Okay, and 5 by chance?
No.
Okay, 4.
4. A solid 4 Starship Troopers.
NPH, having a Neil Patrick Harris Starship Trooper appear today, the 4th Starship Trooper. That's probably the best we've seen so far.
It is the best we've seen since this new rating system has been up and running.
4 out of 5 Starship Troopers, NPH. It gets no better. 1974. So that's a watch.
I would definitely recommend Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Like I said, it's never too serious, which is an enjoyable watch. It's really marketed as a comedy musical. If you want to introduce your kids to scary movies without it being scary, this might be a good, dip the toe in the waters.
It's not scary, huh?
Not in my opinion. They don't add any creepy faces to the tomatoes at all, ever. It's just always giant tomatoes. So if your kids hate tomatoes, maybe don't show them this movie.
Ooh.
But if your kids love tomatoes and you're just looking to open them to a new world of film cinematography, that's what I was going for, then Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, highly recommended, 4 out of 5.
Okay, I see that, they did make a cartoon out of it in the 90s. I always wondered why, because I never saw the movie.